I want to stop you right there because you mentioned earlier about something with regard to if the people only knew where this ultimately, their environmental rhetoric and where the environmentalism today, the political agenda, will ultimately lead, I mean, they would reconsider or re-question their commitment to their opinions. You know, I also work at a university. I work at a major university, and I'm not a professor or you know, I'm just one of the grunt workers, but I'm surrounded by all these, you know, a lot of these greenie weenies here, and you know, basically, you know, these people are good people. You know, they're well-meaning people, but deceived as they can be. And you know, I have thought about that. You know, because a lot of this stuff that they do, you know, on a routine basis. You know, I mean, we've got articles about they're wanting to cook meat now, manufacture meat artificially in a lab because they think the cows are belching and flatulent too much. You know? I mean, it's insane what the direction that we're headed here.
Well, one of the things, Aaron, of course, is if you put, as you've done with universities, you put all these people into these places, and in some ways that's good because a lot of them you got to keep them out of harm's way. But they are innovative people, as you said. But here's the difficulty, and the climate issue is particularly part of this. In the university, if you want to come up with your theories and study and examine all those things and run your computer models, that's fine. It's like a child playing in a sandbox. It's great. But when you go out to the public with those ideas and say, look, this is truth, this is proven, you've got to change everything you're doing and how you're doing it, there's a whole social responsibility that kicks in. And that, unfortunately, has simply gone out the window, particularly, as I said, with the climate science and the environmental issues. And of course, I used to tease my colleagues at the university, and I know this will not make me very popular with other academics, but I don't know any university in the world that offers even a half credit in common sense. Right?
That's right. Or reality, for that matter.
Or reality, exactly. In fact, when they get mad at me, I say, well, you know, and the problem is, if you did offer a half credit, you'd have to bring someone from outside to teach it. And one of the things that they've done here, Darren, is that they have very narrowly defined intelligence. And one of the great problems in our society is the confusion between knowledge and intelligence. They think because you don't know something, you're not intelligent.
Okay, hold it right there. Hold it right there. We have to take a break there. Our guest is Dr. Tim Ball, and he's a former professor in Canada. And we're going to continue our discussion here in a moment. By the way, folks, if you'd like to call in, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. This is Govern America. I'm Darren Weeks. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. And we have returned. This is Govern America. I'm Darren Weeks. The website is governamerica.com, www.governamerica.com, where you will find our guest's link there, Dr. Tim Ball. His website is friendsofscience.org, and it's linked up with ours there at governamerica.com. And we're talking about ClimateGate, or we will be here shortly, and the general science behind this so-called anthropogenic greenhouse warming, which is being pushed so highly by the controlled media and the academics, certain academics anyway. And Dr. Ball, before the break, you were talking about universities and how they very narrowly define intelligence. Did you want to pick up your point?
Yeah, well, I think a very good illustration of it was the movie Crocodile Dundee, and of course, like so much that goes on in our entertainment, there are moral stories in these things, and of course, it's why Hollywood is influence is both good and bad. But Crocodile Dundee was the story about a fellow from the outback of Australia who goes to New York, and of course survives very, very well in the jungle of New York. But, of course, then in the reverse, people from New York go to the outback of Australia and have a hard time surviving.
Sure.
And yet who's calling who primitive? You know, it's precisely that sort of thing. And it's very interesting when you look at the number of people who drop out of university and go on to do extremely well. Bill Gates, of course, is the classic example. And so they very narrowly define intelligence, and I mean, in a commendable way, and if Canada is the same as the U.S., the assumption that every child that goes into kindergarten is going to end up in university almost by default makes failures out of well over, 70% of the population.
Yeah,
and so I think that we need to change that.
Yeah, they're trying to engineer the economy where you have to have a university degree in order to get any kind of job. They have to have their stamp of approval upon everybody. The problem is today with the economy the way it is, everything that's been orchestrated for us with regard to the monetary system, the debt that our country has incurred, it's almost, I was just talking to a listener yesterday about this, it's almost a liability, really, to have a university education anyway, because if you get that degree and you can't pay back those student loans,
right,
you're on the hook regardless.
Well, not only that, but it also denigrates jobs with your hands. If you work with your brain in the university, you're somehow superior, and so it means that the jobs that really make the society function, the work of carpentry and plumbing and all of these other things, are somehow then denigrated in society, and that's. To me, that's not what democracy is all about and equality is all about. But so you bring about a form of intellectual elitism, which is, and of course that again, when you look at what's gone on with this ClimateGate thing, these people sitting in a university thinking that they're superior to everybody else and that they know the truth, and of course. Yeah. It's interesting how these groups come together and just feed on each other, and the ClimateGate thing is a very good example of that.
Yeah, let's talk about that, ClimateGate. The emails that were hacked, this is University of East Anglia.
Yeah.
How did this all come about? How did you learn of it? And let's talk about the content of some of these emails.
Okay, and my career has paralleled all of this because the Climatic Research Unit, which is actually a separate, it's almost like a school of business on the university campus. So the university actually were conned by these people. When Freedom of Information requests came in, these people went to the university and said, look, don't believe Steve McIntyre, the guy that broke the hockey stick. He's a liar. And the university bought that and supported their refusal to provide information. So the university itself was conned. The Climatic Research Unit was set up by the person that I consider the father of modern climatology, Hubert Lamb. And in the U.S., by the way, paralleling this was a fellow by the name of Reed Bryson at the University of Wisconsin, set up a climate center. Well, Lamb was doing forecasts for the bombing over Germany, and the pilots were telling him that the forecasts were lousy, and so he wanted to improve things. And on the graveyard shift at the Met Office, he would go into the archives, and because he figured if I can find out how the climate's changed in the past, then I can get a better understanding of the mechanisms and forecast better in the future. And that's something, absolutely, and that's something that people need to think about. Here are these people who can't even tell you what the weather's going to be like 5 days from now with any degree of accuracy at all, telling you they know 100 years from now what it's going to be. It's the most incredible situation. But anyway, so Lamb wanted to improve this. Nobody wanted to listen to him. It was too, one of those things that, it's just too obvious. It's too much common sense. And so he went off and actually it was Americans that provided some funding for him. And he got set up at the University of East Anglia and started this climate research unit. When I was doing my doctoral thesis, I got to visit with him. And it was just an incredible man, and his volume on climate, past, present, and future, published in 1972, is still way ahead of what is going on in most of the other universities.
Okay, hold it right there. We have another break, and then we'll have a little more time in the next segment. Folks, once again, if you'd like to call in, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Our guest is Dr. Tim Ball. His website, friendsofscience.org. is linked up with ours at governamerica.com. We'll be back in a moment. This is Govern America. Don't go away.